Hello everyone, welcome to the day one of RestAssured API testing with the Java programming. So in this session, we are going to talk about the module one, introduction to the API and RestAssured. So we'll talk about one by one, what is an API, types of APIs, SOAP, REST, and GraphQL. Introduction to the REST API, what is RestAssured, why we are using the RestAssured for API testing, and finally setting up the Java project for RestAssured. What is an API? API stands for Application Programming Interface. So like we already know that what is an API. So API is a software that is a mediator between two different systems. A mediator between two different systems. It is a mediator that enables two different applications or systems to communicate each other, to exchange the data or functionality. So very simple term, the API is nothing but it is a system which is exchanging the information from one system to another system. That's it. Another example, if you imagine a three-tier application, we have the presentation layer that is a client, and we have the business layer server and database layer. And in the presentation layer, if you see right, so one by one, it is a visual diagram of API testing architecture. It is a user interface. So the presentation layer is a user interface where we are accessing the application in the browser. Okay, that is called a presentation layer, a presentation tab. So this is a client. Okay, the client is requesting the data to the server. So the client is sending the request to the server by using an API. Okay, so we'll see that what is the server. Server is nothing but server or business logic where your application logic runs, and we know the database, right? So database is nothing but it's a backend system which is storing the application data or information, okay, or maybe other services. So here what we are doing, we are sending the request from front end to the back end, or we are sending the request from user interface to the server, okay, to get the response back to the client machine. That means this API is a mediator between the front end and back end layer. It's a front end and back end layer. Okay, so API is going to send the request from the application to the server, and the server will give the response and to the API will give the response back to the client machine. That's how it works. So if you want to understand in detail about the API testing, right? So we'll see a different example. Imagine you are in a restaurant. You're a customer. That means your application. Okay. So you are ordering different type of items, different type of food items to the waiter. Okay. So your order can be in the form of request. You're requesting the waiter, okay, to bring these items to my table. So the waiter is recording your request. That means note it down each and every request that you are giving. Let's say I need a chicken biryani. I need a cool drink. I need something else. So the waiter will list down all the items that you ordered. That means request. So once he got the request items, then this guy will go to the kitchen. That is a server. That is a server. This guy, the waiter, will go to the kitchen and will check the items and whether these items are there or not. If the items are there in the kitchen, then this waiter will bring the item back to the customer. Okay. Now we'll see in the software point of view, in the software terminology. If you see this, this application, you're a customer. Application is sending the request, API request to the server to get the response. So now the waiter is an API. The waiter is an API, which is a mediator between the customer and the kitchen. Okay, application and server. Application or server or customer and kitchen. The waiter is a mediator. The waiter job is to bring the food bring the food from kitchen to the customer, because the waiter has already got a request from the customer, from the customer, because API is already having the request type. It can be any request type. It can be food, cool drink, coffee, tea, or something else. So whatever the request is given by the customer, right? The waiter has already hold that and send it to the kitchen, and from the kitchen is already prepared, and the data will carry by the waiter and will go back to the customer to hand over. That's all. So let's example. Imagine if the customer has requested some items, the waiter has received that request and he went to the kitchen. Okay, that item is not there, and then the waiter will go back to the customer and saying that that item is not there. The same way API also same thing. The application is sending the request, okay, to the API to the server. If the data is not there in the server, again the API will talk back to the client, that is called application, saying that there is no such data you requested. It's a very simple. Okay. So the API is a mediator between the application and server. A simple way. Now we'll see. Hope you understand the what is an API, and we'll see the types of an APIs. So we have the SOAP, REST, and GraphQL. We mostly use the REST. Most of the companies are opting this REST, and some of the companies also using the SOAP. But we'll see all of them. SOAP. First, we'll go with the SOAP. SOAP is nothing but the simple object access protocol, which is a definition of the SOAP, and which is the old protocol, which is using the XML format data, and which has the strict specifications. And the data format is nothing but data format XML is nothing but the SOAP will accept only XML formatted data. That means the data should be in the XML format. If the data is any other format, like text, plain text, or maybe CSV file format, or maybe JSON file format, it won't accept. Only XML format data will be accepted by the SOAP protocol. That is a SOAP. And when it's come to the REST is nothing but representational state transfer, and which is a modern uses stands HTTP methods. So we have the different type of data formats. It supports JSON, XML, and plain text. It has more than one type of format it will support: JSON, XML, and plain text. That means three types of data formats it will support. And finally, GraphQL. GraphQL is a flexible query language for API, developed by the Facebook, and it supports only JSON format. It supports only JSON format. So why customers are choosing the REST? Because it supports multiple data formats. Okay, it's not like that. Most of them in companies are choosing the REST, but companies are also choosing the SOAP. Also, it's based on the requirement and security purpose. But they use sometimes both. Also, sometimes they use both SOAP and REST. Hope you understand the SOAP, REST, GraphQL. Now we'll see the difference between the SOAP, REST, and the GraphQL. The feature. So protocol is only SOAP or XML format. Is a SOAP and only XML, and REST is supported in the HTTP protocol. GraphQL also same thing, HTTP protocol. And data formats, we understand that data format is nothing but what type of data can be accepted by this protocol or APIs. SOAP will accept only XML format. REST will support JSON, XML, text, which we learned in the previous slide. GraphQL will support only JSON. And the flexibility is nothing but the uses, like how they're using low and high and very high. And the bandwidth is nothing but the SOAP, which is more, because if you see the bandwidth, right? So XML format we are using for big and heavy data purpose. So heavy data purpose, this is a very bandwidth wise uses, which are using more SOAP. And rest is very less, because this is lighter than SOAP, but JSON format. So lighter than the SOAP, but often returns the extra fields. And which is okay. When it's come to the GraphQL, also very less, because it returns only the data you ask for. It's a small and efficient responses. And when it's come to the finally versioning, right? Versioning. So versioning is important. Versioning support is important. Yes. In the SOAP, it is required because it's a built-in WSDL, Web Service Definition Language, is a strict contact to with the versioning. The versioning is mandatory. So REST is an optional because so usually which is done by the the resource URL version v1 and v2 v3 like that. So that way we can manage with this REST. And GraphQL, it doesn't require any kind of versioning part. And introduction to the REST API. So we already seen that REST is nothing but representational state transfer. And REST is an architectural style for designing network applications, and which is also is an API uses the STP methods to perform operations on resources. What are the different type of STP methods? That is a get, post, put, pass, and delete. So these are the 5 different type of STP methods which we use frequently in the REST API testing. Okay, so we'll see one by one: get, post, put, pass, delete request in the near future classes. But the word purpose of the GET request is retrieving the data. That means reading the data from the server. And the post is nothing but creating the data. That means it is going to create a new record, new set of record in the server or database. Put is nothing but update or replace the data. So update is nothing but the data should be there in the system. So if you want to update with the new setup data, or if you want to replace with the existing data with the new data, that means we are using the put. Hash is nothing but partially updating the data. You don't want to update the entire data in the server of the particular request. So you want to just update only particular field or value or field in the APIs. Like example, if you want to update only email, you want to update only the last name of the person. So you can go and just add that last name and a value. It is going to update in the server. And delete is nothing but just a straight away deleting the entire that resource from the data from the API. So deleting the data, simple. Right. So what is the key concepts of the REST? It is a stateless. That means each request is independent. That's why the request, representational state transferred. And it's a client server architecture, and it is going to use the standard HTTP methods like get, post, put, patch, delete, and uniform interface, standard way of communicating. And what is the REST assured? Now we'll come to the actual topic of REST assured. The REST assured is a Java-based open source library which is used for automating the REST API testing. Guys, the REST assured is not a tool; it's a library. We're just using the library to automate your APIs, your REST API. Example: if you want to automate the UI applications, right? We use the Selenium jar files, libraries like Selenium Java, Selenium standalone server. Those are the libraries. The same way we have the REST assured, we have a different type of libraries. We have the different type of we have the single library which we are going to use to automate your REST APIs. Okay, and it provides a simple expressive DLS, that means domain specific language for writing the API test cases. We'll see in the future. No need to manually handle the HTTP request or responses. We just know REST should provide the fluent API to do this. So imagine it will be like this. So it is a simple way. It is a BDD format, the behavior driven development. So given dot when dot get and your request, then dot status code of 200. This is a sample, the code of REST assured. Why REST assured for API testing? It supports the BDD behavior-driven development style test, like we discussed, given dot, when dot, then, given when then, and easy to learn for anyone who knows Java programming, and no external tools required. Just add the dependencies and start testing, like just add the libraries in the form of dependencies. It can be integrated with the popular testing frameworks like JUnit, TestNG, or Maven. Right? JUnit and TestNG are unit testing frameworks, and Maven is a build tool, and it provides a built-in support for various things like authentication, JSON and XML parsing, and it request and response validations, and logging requests and responses, like log the request, printing the logs in the console or reports. That's it. Now, finally, we are going to set up the Java project for REST Assured. So, what are the prerequisites to set up your REST Assured project in your machine? First, install the JDK, that is 11 or a higher version preferred. So, I recommend 17 or above version. Try to install the JDK of 17 or 21 version. And install Eclipse or IntelliJ IDE and create a Maven project. And finally, we're going to add the dependencies in the POM flexible. So these are the three major dependencies that we are going to add. The one is for REST Assured. This is going to automate your REST APIs. And the second one is this is for JSON, parsing. That means to read the JSON data from your response body, we are using the JSON minus data bind. So we have also unit testing framework which you use to categorize or prioritize your test cases, okay, by using annotations. Okay, so this is your first test case. So we have the class and we have the a test method, public void test get users, and rest assured dot base URI is equal to, this is the an API, and given dot when dot get of, this is the resource URL. After this is the endpoint, this is the resource URL, and dot then status code of 200, then body, and this is the JSON format, JSON path, data dot email, and contain a string of request rest dot in. So this data value contain these things. If it is matching both, then the test will pass. Otherwise, it will fail. That's it. In the previous side, we have to install the JDK, right? So you have to go to the JDK website and you have to go and install the 11 or above 11, like 17 or 21 version. If you go and check this, open this, now install JDK 21. So from here, you can select your version. Let's example, I'm working on Windows 11 64-bit. Okay, so I can go and install this. I can download and I can install it. So once you download and install it, right? So you can go and check in the C drive, which is there here, C drive, program files, and there is a Java folder. Here you go. So I already installed the JDK 21 version in my machine. So this is how you can check it out. So once it is installed, now you have to go and download the Eclipse and install in your machine. Download Eclipse. Yes. Now you go here, download 64-bit. Yes. So download option, there is an exe. You better install this exe file and download this. It is going to download here. So once it is downloaded, then you can go and install this Eclipse in your machine. And make sure one thing, so do not swap this installation, because if you're installing Eclipse first and JDK next, it won't work out. First, you have to install the JDK, then Eclipse should be installed. Okay, so once this Eclipse is already installed in my machine, Eclipse, yes.